What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we have another deck profile for you and it's gonna be Relinquished. I've had a lot of fun building this deck. When I was streaming, a commenter came in and told me to take a look at the deck, so I decided to, and it's really become one of my favorite decks that I've ever made. It's just kind of fun. It's nowhere near like super meta or anything like that, but it is very, very fun and it can steal some games. So before we jump into the video, I do want to say, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You always don't have to, but it does make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when you do. Thanks guys, let's get into the video. Looking through this deck, I should say, we were asked to do this profile as well from another viewer. I think his name was Relinquished King has asked us to build Relinquished. So I did a rough version of the deck on my how to build series, but then from there I kind of refined the deck from what I wanted to make it, and we were able to actually build a deck that's actually kind of, I want to say it's kind of viable, but I feel like that with every single deck in this game, if you play it smart, you can at least get to Platinum 5. And so with that, let's crack into Relinquished. Starting off with the card that seems to start off every single one of my deck profiles, we have Effect Veiler. Super basic, basic hand trap, negate effects of your opponent's monsters on their turn. It's interruption, we like it. The reason I like this deck so much is because it basically thrives off of interrupting the opponent. This is such a fun controlled deck, and it's super, super easy to pilot, I want to say, but it's also got some kind of things that kind of spice it up, you know what I mean? Pardon me for the dance, but we are running the one copy of Golden Eyes Idol. This card is ran at 1 only because it's not that good, but it is a Golden Eyes card, so we like to run it. So once per turn, quick effect, you can activate this card, look at your opponent's hand. Also, this name has become Thousand Eyes Idol. Right there, I should end the video. Or I should end the explanation on this card. This card looks at your opponent's hand. It's super good in that regard. And if this card is banished or sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls, equip that to a Eyes Restrict or Relinquished monster. This kind of is just a way to just refill your Relinquished monsters all while seeing the opponent's hand. So that's why it's only ran at 1. It doesn't have a lot of utility in the deck. It's just kind of a refill for your Relinquished monsters. Going into quite possibly the greatest card in the deck, Millennium Eyes Illusionist. This card is stacked. This card makes the deck run. So quick effect, you can discard this card, then target one effect monster your opponent controls, equip that target to an Eyes Restrict fusion monster or Relinquish you control, as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. And if an Eyes Restrict fusion monster or Relinquish is special summoned, add this card from the graveyard to the hand. So this is so good. So not only does it replenish itself when you summon a Relinquished or anything like that, but this is just a quick effect, steal your opponent's monster and beef up your own. So that's kind of like the way this deck runs, is because you want to just steal your opponent's monsters as Relinquished does. So 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Illusionist for sure. And then the namesake of the deck, we are running 3 copies of Relinquished. If you need to be explained this card, I can go ahead and do it. Basically, if you summon it, you activate your Millennium Eye and steal your opponent's monster, and it becomes material to this card, and then this card gains the attack and everything like that. So going into a little bit of an engine for this deck, we do have a Fiend level 3 engine. It's kind of okay. We're not really running a ton of level 3 cards. We really use it only for the link fodder. So we are running 3 copies of Sangan, because Sangan, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add any of these Relinquished cards that we could possibly want. So that's why we run the Sangan, and we pair it with 3 copies of Torguide from the Underworld. Sangan and Torguide are best friends. They're hand in hand. They're old college roommates. They work in tandem together no matter what. Torguide is also just one of the greatest cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Being able to be normal summon, you can tutor out any level 3 Fiend monster from the hand or deck. And then, yeah, so that's basically what it's used for. It's just a link material, because we are going into Predaplant, Verte, and Akonda. That's what Torguide and Sangan make. And then we do run 3 Ash Blossom, just like every deck profile. Ash Blossom is just a super generic hand trap, and it's able to stop those opponent searches on their turn. And then the funnest thing about running a Kaiju deck, So Relinquished, I'm sorry, the funnest thing about running a Relinquished deck, pardon me. So Relinquished steals monsters. And how do we get monsters on our opponent's side of the field? What's up, Quiz Thulu? Welcome into the stream. How do we get monsters on our opponent's side of the field? Obviously, we're going to use Kaiju. So we have 4 big bad mamma jammas. We got Radiant, the multidimensional Kaiju, standing at 2,800 attack. We have Godarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, standing at 2,700. We have Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju, at 3,300 attack. And Jizukiru, the Star Destroyer, with another 3,300 attack. Now, I'm not going to go into their effects because we don't fairly use them, but we are just using these cards to tribute monsters from our opponent's side of the field to go on the opponent's side of the field, obviously, and then we're going to steal these cards with Millenniumized Illusionist or Relinquished. So that is the monster lineup for the deck. It's super, super fun. This deck is very fun. I have to say, it may not be the best deck, but it is one of the most fun decks I've ever built, and shout out to Relinquished King again for asking me to build it. I've had a ton playing this deck. So going into the spells, we do run the 1 instant fusion. Not only are our main fusion cards instant fusion targets, but we do run Intis, which can pop a card, and we do run Mud Dragon, which can negate monster effects and stuff like that. So we do have pre-prep. So this is a ritual deck. First off and foremost, this is Relinquish is a ritual monster. So running 3 copies of pre-preparation of rites, add 1 ritual spell card from the deck to the hand, then add a ritual monster. This gets you everything you need to summon Relinquished, and Relinquished is only a level 1 monster, so usually having 1 pre-prep is a free Relinquished. Yeah. And then so Magicalized Fusion, we are running this with our Verte Anaconda. Verte Anaconda does search out Magicalized Fusion along with our Relinquished Fusion, and that's basically just banishing spellcasters from the deck to summon our Millennium Eyes Restrict. And then we do run the 1 copy of 1 Lightning Storm that the game gives you for free. We do run Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is a good card. I like this card a lot, considering the extra deck is kind of a toolbox that we don't really need to go into, considering Millennium Eyes is the one that we want to go into the most. So the extra deck is kind of fodder for Prosperity, but it's also a fun toolbox. So Pot of Prosperity is just the best pot card for this deck, I would say. You could run Desires, but you don't want to banish any of your cards. And then going into Black Illusion Ritual, pretty self-explanatory. It's just the card we need to summon Relinquished. And then we have 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. This could literally be any 2 cards you want. It could be Forbidden Chalice. However, I wanted to get some back row removals, so I just threw in 2 MST. And then the Relinquished Fusion. This is just the way the deck runs. This gets Millennium Eyes out. We can tutor it with Verte Anaconda. And it also does have the effect that during your main phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard, then target an effect monster your opponent controls, and then you give it to a material to a Relinquished monster or Eyes Restrict monster. And then we just run the 1 Solemn Judgment to round it out. The game gives you this for free. It's good. Run it if you have it. Going into the extra deck, this is where the spice comes in. This is a very, very fun deck, and it's mainly in part due to the funness that this extra deck provides. So we do run the 1000 Eyes Restrict. It's basically a better Relinquished. You can target 1 monster your opponent controls. This card's attack becomes that effect monster. So it's basically just a better version of Relinquished in a fusion card. This card, though, oh my gosh, this is the heart and soul that this deck runs through. So once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect. This is on either turn. It's quick effect. It's so good. You can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard. Equip that target to this card you control. In testing, I haven't really gone up against a ton of hand traps, but I believe this card stops hand traps as well. It being a quick effect, your opponent discards a hand trap to the graveyard, and this card can snatch it from the graveyard like a called by, so it almost stops hand traps. I want to say that is true. Do not quote me. I'm not a judge, but yes. And then in doing so, when it does have the material, this card gains attack and defense equal to the equipped monsters, and monsters with that equipped monster's name cannot attack. Also, their effects on their field are negated. So this card is Very good. This is the heart and soul of the deck, and this is not limited to one material. Relinquished himself is limited to one material, but Millennium Eyes is not. So you can just pump this card up. Going into our other two instant fusion targets, we do run Intis. If you watch my Dogmatica profiles, you know Intis is super good. So just once per turn, when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. So it's basically just an instant fusion pop. And then Mud Dragon of the Swamp is just another pretty solid instant fusion target. Your opponent cannot target this card or monsters on the field with the same attribute as this card with card effects, and it switches the card effects, or it switches the attribute of monsters. And then, actually, we have Quizthulu in the chat right now. He did give us the a suggestion of Punishment and Crime, I believe. Yes. So these cards both have the same exact effect, but 2 level 1 monsters. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, change all monsters your opponent controls to face-up attack position. Also, all monsters your opponent currently controls must attack this card if able, and this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and your opponent takes the damage. So it's kind of a cheeky way to just make your opponent take a ton of damage, and both these cards have the exact same effect, I believe, word for word. So yeah, and then we are running level 1 monsters. We do run the 1 Link Aribo just for protections and things like that. And going into the Link 2s, we do run the 1 Nightmare Phoenix just for generic back row removal. It's a solid Link 2. I run it in almost every deck I have. And then the star of the freaking show, Predaplant Verte Anaconda. This card is absolutely bonkers. With Tour Guide and Sangan, this card is just a turn 1 Millennium Eyes Restrict, and then from there you're able to just set up your Restrict and party, basically. And then we do run the Link 3 Nightmare Unicorn. When Verte Anaconda is kind of off to the side on the field, we don't really want him to, because he's just 500 attack, so we are able to go into Nightmare Unicorn for bounce backs on for your opponent. We do run the 1 Celine. Celine is only used because we have spellcaster monsters, and she tutors out Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker, guys, I don't gotta talk about this card anymore. Every single deck profile on my channel talks about Access Code Talker. Craft this card if you don't have it. This card wins games. Craft it. It's good. Don't sleep on it. And then we have the 1 Boral Sword Dragon, mainly because I pulled it in a Master Pack, and it's just really fun. But you can also go into it with Celine and things like that. So that is the Relinquished deck. Like I said, this deck is super, super fun. I love this deck. Shout out to Relinquished King again for asking me to build it. I've had a lot of fun experimenting with it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.